Okay, so yesterday we started talking about a very important group of functions that are higher order functions. Okay, so they benefit from the idea of behavior parameterization, and they are commonly used in data science projects because they are used for data processing. And we talked about the first one of them, which is the filtering. So filtering would just take a function that is a predicate type of function. A predicate type of function would just take one value and returns true or false. Okay, so regardless of the condition. Now the condition that's based on which the predicate word can differ from call to the filter to another, like this. So we can change our mind and send another function to the same filter. And we created something that resembles how it works internally, just to try to understand how the dynamic of it, so that we know what is it that we're sending and what to expect as an output. Okay, it's not identically like this in Python, but it's kind of similar dynamic here. All right, and we have the option of sending a function name and that points to the function objects, or send an anonymous function that is just a predicate itself, if it's short and if it's not needed anywhere else. Okay, so that was the filter. Now the second type of functionality or data processing actions is the transforming or the mapping. Okay, and that's just to map items in a data set into something else, or transform it into something else. In other words, just apply some processing on it and create a new list that is the result of the application of the process. Okay, so the way it works in Python is slightly different. Like most languages, just take one iterable and one function. It takes one parameter at a time. So that is one value at a time. But Python has something extra. I think you should recognize that. What does this mean? So this is the general definition of the map function. So the first parameter is the function, okay, that we receive, that we're gonna apply. The second parameter is any iterable, but it is preceded by a star. So what does that mean? What is a parameter preceded by a star? Yes. We just talked about it. The star preceding the parameter name is the arbitrary number of arguments. So I can send any number of iterables, not just one. Okay. So let's start trying it by using one, and then we'll see how it works when we have more than one. Okay. So we have our function here. Let me just I'm gonna comment this out. Or perhaps it's better that I actually write it. Okay, so let's say we have a list here that we want to turn each of them, of the elements here, into uppercase. So the processing that we want to apply is to turn the characters from lowercase to uppercase. Okay, so we can use the built-in map function. Okay, or we can build our own. So let's start by building our own. So how would it look like if we are writing the map function ourselves? So it would look like this: diff our map. So the first argument is a function. So I'm gonna call it mapper. The second argument is iterable. So I'm gonna start by just one. any iterable. Okay, so the mapper would just create a result, a new iterable. Let's just for simplicity say we're gonna create a new list that will contain the results. Okay, and then we just loop over the items in the iterable, so item by item. And what do? We just apply the mapper on this item and add the result to the new list. Okay, so we just say result dot add or append. So our item, but not as it is, after applying the mapper function on it. Okay, so we already understand how does this work, right? So this, we're receiving a function, now we call it for execution, and we're sending that item as an argument to it. And then at the end, we just return that result. Okay, so now if I call mapped or transformed, let me call mapped pets equal. I want to call the our map on a function that applies on every element in the on the list here. So my bit, this would be the iterable I'm sending. All right. Now we have seen how we define a function and we send it. We can also send any built-in function as well. Okay, so we've seen that if we will have a string, let's say my string that's equal ABC, and I want to turn this into lower or to upper, I would just say my string dot upper, right? So inside the string, there is a definition of function called upper, right? Or lower to turn it into lower string. So if I want to call this function for execution, I preceded with the parentheses, right? But if I want to point to the function definition object itself, I don't have to use a parenthesis, and I can refer not using an object name, using the class name or the string itself. So that is the pointer to the function definition itself inside the string class. All right, so I can use that just like I used any function I defined, and I send it here as the function that I want to apply on my my pets here. So str dot upper without parentheses. So that's the pointer to the function definition. Now, if I try to print that, it should show me the uppercase versions of all the names that I have in the list. Okay, which is case. Now that we understand how it works, now we expect what would we send and what happens inside in order to generate the results. We don't really have to write it ourselves because it's already built in. So if I say mapped fits equal to the map function, so this is map, this is the built-in function, and I can send it the same function I want to apply, so string.upper, and my pets, it should give me the same result, except that this is a generator object, remember? So this is a generator object. It doesn't actually create the elements in it unless we try to read them. Okay, so in order to see every element inside, I will have to turn it into a list or a tuple or like try to do something with them. All right, and then only then I can see it. Okay, so you see it gives me the same result here. Okay, now most functions, most languages work with the one iterable to be sent and then apply on it a processing function. Okay, so that processing function just has to take one element if we are sending one iterable. Okay, sometimes we can send multiple iterables and we want to transform them all into a new iterable. So the transformation in Python can happen on multiple iterables, not just one. And in that case, the function that we send must take multiple, as many as the number of arguments that we're sending. Okay, so let's say if we are trying to create our version of the Z function. Remember the Z function that takes two or more lists and create tuples based on them? All right, so let's say we are going to use the map to create our own version of it. Okay, so the results should be equal to, now I'm gonna call the map. All right, and I'm gonna send it some lists. So let's say we are here, I'm gonna have so names, for example. Jack, Alex, Bob, some names. Okay, and scores. So let's say 60, 70, 45, 55. Okay, so 4 and 4. All right, so we want to create a generator or an iterable of tuples. Each one of them would have one element from names and one element from scores. Okay, so what would this function look like? Let's try to create a lambda expression that does that. So first, we need the keyword lambda, right? How many arguments should it take? 2. So the number of arguments of the function we send from the map must be equal to the number of the iterables that we're sending afterwards. So it should take two arguments. We cannot call them x and y, n and s, whatever names we want. So let's call them x and y. And then it should return one thing, or one expression. Okay, so the expression that I want to return here for every iteration is just a tuple that contains x and y, right? So it's just simply like this, tuple x and y. Okay, now so this will create a generator object. In order to see what's in it, we need to turn it into something, try to read it, loop over it or something. So trying to create a list out of it would do the trick. And then we are going to print the results. All right, I'm just gonna print a separator here so that we know where to look. So did that happen? Is that what we expecting? Yeah. Okay, so it did create, so this is our first list here, this is our second list. It created a new list that each element is just a tuple of the corresponding elements from the given lists. Okay, now I can have multiple, I can send any number of iterables as long as the function I'm sending takes as many number of arguments. It should be okay. So it will map them into one iterable that joins them based on the function I sent.